Keller told me to buy at the time, so I did. And I don't use one fraction of what it does, and I know that. I do know that, but.
You have to see all my pages. This is
Come on. Oh, geez. When I had to switch phones the first time, that lady said, oh, and I'll transfer all your apps. And then she looked at me and said, you don't have any. I know that.
It's so easy to transfer now because all you got to do is lay the new one next to the old one. A message will pop up. Do you want to transfer to this phone?
You are
Just keep
done.
them side by
But see,
side.
now Tom's phone died and they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Well,
But for phones, I've got my work phone and
because it
an
died.
iPhone and my personal
But
phone's an Android.
I had one.
But he has
And
a.
like my computer, my
Yeah.
work computer.
An Android,
So
yeah.
it's split. My work computer's PC and my personal computer's Mac.
Like I said, I had one,
Computers,
and I have
I like Mac
I
as
have
well.
a
They're just different. But for
Amazon
phones,
Fire
my
tablet
iPhone.
and my
Right, but
iPad.
I use
I
my
have the
personal
Fire
phone for
tablet
work
when
stuff.
I went to California. I bought it to do on the plane
I don't know.
because I didn't have my iPad that I had. I had the very first generation.
Yeah, it tries to do too much.
It's good at making it easy, but I don't want it to
10
be
years
that
old.
easy. I want to have some control.
So
You know what I
I
mean?
bought the
Not coming up
Yeah, it's
on
like it's trying to read your mind all the time.
Fire
Yeah.
tablet.
Yeah.
And I hardly use it at all.
I want that.
Yep.
Mara
I'm gonna
uses
try
it.
it again.
I had the choice of
She was giving
an
me heck
Android or an
because I used to
iPhone.
have all
So
those
I
movies
chose
downloaded on Disney Plus and they all expired and I haven't
That
re-downloaded.
way I'll have
Oh, yeah.
got flexibility.
And when you travel Highway
There's
80,
something that's only one
not.
way to have
internet
it.
connection on Highway 80 very often
It is
at
not
all.
wanting to stream. Fair.
Yeah. And when you go back and forth to Fairbury a lot, I went to, huh?
It's trying to make it. Stream, it doesn't want to stream. 1 second, I'm gonna try one more thing. Yeah, it's always good.
Well, it was on these trying to get the stream up and going. Working now.
7 o'clock.
We're trying to get the stream up and going. It's not up yet.
Okay.
Connect. It's
Stream.
No.
Facebook doesn't want to pick it up, but YouTube does. YouTube is streaming right now.
You know, long to get used to
So I restart
the phones.
I restarted it all.
No?
I couldn't get
Been on it for
Facebook to
years.
even let me make
He
a
really likes
comment
it.
earlier.
Oh, well, are they having problems today then?
And so I restarted my computer and restarted Facebook and then it
And
did.
it worked?
Oh,
I was trying to tell my cousins about my great uncle. They'll tell you what he did. He died 79 years ago
try this one more time.
in World War II. September 29th, he passed. I identified his remains. So.
Same.
Mr. Mayor, you can start the meeting and let it, they can try to fix the
Yeah,
technical
we'll go ahead and
difficulties.
start the meeting. Call this meeting to order.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think I'm just gonna copy our YouTube address onto Facebook so everybody can
Okay,
see it. 'Cause
that'll
right
work.
now, Facebook is not wanting to work.
Okay. Roll call.
Pipia,
Present.
Fry,
Present.
Schroller,
Here,
Hughes,
Present.
Beichman,
Present.
Price,
Here.
Barons,
Here.
Brom. Here. 8-0, we have a quorum.
Okay, first up, we have the approval of the minutes.
well, I don't know whether it's a clarification or a amendment, but on page 2, under McNish Ordinance Procedures, it says, if the mayor appointed all key positions, one person could appoint people. I think we need to have a comma or something after, if the mayor appointed all key positions, comma, one person could appoint people the council hates and combine to appoint people everyone hates. I think there needs to be a comma or something in there. As it reads, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know. something in there as it reads.
He was coming back over his speaker, I couldn't hear it.
I don't know. Right now, to me, it
It was in
doesn't,
the wrong place.
yes,
Yeah.
to me, that's the way
Yeah.
it reads, I think.
Yeah,
Could appoint people,
I'd say so.
hates comma, and continue to appoint people
Okay.
everywhere. That's, yes, the
And
comma's in the
then
wrong place.
on page 3, under 4, historic depot request, it's suggested the alley assessed, it's supposed to be B instead of by,
Oh,
in the middle,
yep.
about 2/3 down. Okay?
okay. Any other changes?
Yeah, under business and discussion 1, it was brought to my attention that, and I agree that it seems like there's almost some editorializing going on.
It was rewritten
Was it-
on your desk
Is that in
and
my new
ran through the
papers?
lawyer.
Number 1 is?
Yes.
Well, I didn't get here 20 minutes early, so I haven't gone through all the stack. My
Should
bad.
have been the top one.
Well, I'm not sure if he said.
Oh, I'm sorry, business and discussion 1,
Oh,
not
oh,
public
okay.
comments 1. I did see that one.
Okay.
Yes, no, and I agree on the public comments 1 as amended.
And discussion one. So,
The request to repeal ordinance 1900.
I just wrote what I thought she asked for.
Well, I mean,
And
it
the only-
seems,
Well,
Sorry,
tell me
go
what
ahead.
you want. No, tell
no,
me what you
no,
want.
so where it says, which cleans up technical errors establishing chain of command.
That's
I mean,
written.
that was the stated goal of it, but saying that seems unnecessary, even if I mean, there's a point of disagreement on whether that actually does that or
And the
not.
reason it's there, because 3 years from now, when somebody reads that, they'll have no idea what ordinance 1900 is. So that's
Well,
why I took
so-
that white out of the thing.
Then we could add language to indicate that it is not completely accepted, that it cleans up technical errors, like which portends to clean up, or which,
Okay.
the intention of which was to clean up, something like that, because I
I
think
was
there's some
just
discussion.
defining what it's in the title of the
Sure.
ordinance. Because I
You
know
want
that
down
when
the
I had to
line.
go back 3 years from now, I would have no
Sure.
idea nobody would have any idea why we were even talking about it.
Right, I understand that,
That's why it's
that's a
there.
good point, but, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we aren't, making a statement with it.
Right,
We're
and
just-
and all I did was take what was in the ordinance
Okay.
title and put it in there.
Okay,
And that's why I put that in there. And then the summary of the ordinance was establishing chain of command. So if you want it different than that, I changed it, but that is why, because in the future, no one will know what we were talking about.
okay, well, like I said, I mean, it's always a tricky deal with minutes, I mean.
It is,
You want it
because-
to be thorough, but
But
it's
not
it's easy to go off with a point of view or be too much information.
That's why I took that right out of the title, so
Okay.
if you want it to be, I don't
That's,
know.
yeah, I just think something in there to clean that, or to explain that that was the purpose, I get that leaving it in, but that says it's not widely accepted, that was the intention of the ordinance, or, something to that.
Which was the purpose of the ordinance to clean up technical errors.
That was the goal,
It was the goal, okay,
to-
I can
yeah.
say that, because that, somehow you have to say what that
I
ordinance was
understand that.
about.
And then the only other thing on there, the PowerPoint slides stating, do not believe an ordinary ordinance can be used to change a charter ordinance. I would probably say, since there was quite a bit of discussion about, the contention is that violates the rights, the constitutional rights, maybe something to that language in there without necessarily giving a one side or the other viewpoint, but since that was part of the larger goal of the presentation.
Very difficult not to take someone's
I understand
opinion and
that.
get that in here.
Right, but
Very
say something along the lines of, she does not believe, it says now, she does not believe an ordinary ordinance can be used to change a charter ordinance. You could add something as simple, without violating the constitutional rights of Marysville citizens or something. And because you're not making a comment on whether you agree with that or not, you're saying that she does not believe that you can do that without violating the rights, just to make it more thorough and more explanatory. Otherwise, somebody will read this, like you said, a couple years down the line, and they're gonna have no idea. And that gives a little more of an explanation of the intended impact, I think.
Any further discussion?
Move to approve regular minutes of October 11th, 2021.
I'm not done yet. I'd like to make an amendment.
Okay.
Under page 2, number 1, Sandy Smith's comment. I know you made a
I
paper on
rewrote
this.
it, right, and,
But she
ran
does
it through the
never,
lawyer.
she does never say a last name. I don't think you need to mislead or assume to the public what she is talking about. I think the word Ackerman needs to be omitted.
So is Todd Gurley, the Atlanta Falcons, is that what we're talking about?
It's still misleading.
Well,
I think, the city clerk did call me Friday about this.
I
issue.
am omitting, I want the word Ackerman omitted
And
from the minutes.
I just tell you, the city clerk did call me, and these aren't necessarily direct quotes or anything like that. It's her impression of what was said in the intent.
It
To
does
suggest that
does
it's
not matter
Todd-
to me. I want the word Ackerman omitted.
Well, let me finish here. To suggest it's Todd Gurley or Todd Fry or somebody else, the import is clear. I think stand for Todd stands for the chief. And I know the citizens have valued his service,
I
and
think the average person on the street, that's how rumors get started, because they read what's printed in the minutes.
well, but what got printed was what was said.
Yeah.
Last name
True or
was
not
said.
true, she said it.
She did not
It's in
say
the
it
minutes.
last, no, she did not. You listen to the tape.
well, like I said, I know it's not Todd Gurley, because he was playing football Sunday. And to suggest it's somebody else's imaginary character, I don't think it's accurate. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, holy cow, we know what it's about.
I still want the word Ackerman omitted.
Well, I guess it could be Todd Fry then. Ain't fair to you.
Couldn't hear you, Parker.
I said, I guess it could be Todd Fry then, when I read it again later on in 2 years.
I'm standing by my statement.
Well, does somebody want to make a motion?
To what?
Well, I mean,
Accept it
add,
with or without.
add amended, or you can make a motion without that amendment on there, that change, whatever you want to do.
I move we approve the minutes with the, omitted statements that was said.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed?
Aye.
I mean, we're opposed.
Five.
5?
Yep.
Okay. We failed. Does somebody want to make another motion to approve the minutes without the part that they objected to?
Couldn't hear you.
Somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes without the change that was controversial?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes without the change that was controversial,
About removing,
removing the word Ackerman.
Okay, so which one are we doing? The one that's been rewritten right here?
Yes,
yes.
Okay. Because I don't think this one here is right either.
right, it's not.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
2? 6-2. Okay. All right, on to public comment. Is anybody here for 5-minute public comment?
It's Jamie Anderson, 1203 Park Place, Ward 1. Thanks for trying to fix up the minutes to somewhat represent what happened. I bet you're all really relieved that I'm not on the agenda again this week. But if you didn't hear me loud and clear last time, I wouldn't expect you to hear me this time. Your complete disregard for the Kansas Constitution should alarm every person that lives here. And in fact, you should be alarmed yourselves that somehow you've gotten to a point in your position where you look at direct statements from the Kansas Constitution and you say, oh, that doesn't actually apply to us. Not only did you disregard everything that I presented last week, but the discussion shows the meeting minutes were not typed accurately either. I don't know if any of you took it upon yourself to validate what I said or presented last meeting, but I hope you did. I doubt you did, but I hope you did. If you did, I wonder if any of you asked yourselves questions that I can't seem to let go, because they still are unanswered. So tonight, I'm here to just point out a few questions that I hope many of you, both council and city citizens, have considered, and if you haven't, if you will consider them. It's been stated several times over the last couple months that Ordinance 1900 changed nothing. That statement could not be more untrue. Think to yourselves, if that was true, why did anything need to be done? I thought the Marysville public might be interested to know that Ordinance 1900 that was passed on June 28th repealed a policy which requires council consent for appointed positions that has been written into our city code since June 1921. It's exactly 100 years. It's true. It's Ordinance 313, if you want to look it up. It is. That policy in some form has been in effect since that year, until this year. So anyone who states or believes that it changed nothing is lying to themselves and to the citizens of Marysville. During the last council meeting, it was presented by the city attorney over and over again that it is totally fine to amend and change charter ordinances without new charter ordinances. You can just use ordinary ordinances. The case of Farah versus Wichita was used to defend this, to say that we didn't need to duplicate our efforts with a new charter ordinance. I thought everyone would find it interesting that the second half of that sentence was omitted from the case. This sentence was used to defend the city's actions, but it left out a very important part. What was left out explains exactly why our city's actions do not mirror Wichita's, and that case remains irrelevant to the situation, as I pointed out in my presentation last meeting. If anybody wants to see it directly, you can message me and I can get that to you. What was presented on October 11th was Wichita was not required to duplicate its charter ordinance effort when it adopted an ordinary ordinance to provide further particulars. ... Would anybody like to know what was after that ... Because I looked it up. This is from Supreme Court case number 95-445. So I'm going to read the rest of that sentence for you. It was not required to duplicate its charter ordinance effort when it adopted an ordinary ordinance to provide further particulars on the court costs previously authorized by charter. Given that half of that information was used to defend the unconstitutional actions, that doesn't go unnoticed. ... They stated it in their charter ordinance, which is why they were allowed to do that. It's right here in the Supreme Court opinion. Another question, if it truly was okay to change Charter Ordinance number 9 the way you explained, why did you need to imply repeal with Charter Ordinance number 18? Why not just keep on changing city code and using ordinary ordinances? Why'd you have to go to that length? One more glaring situation that I found I just have to bring up is recently, in 2019, when the city needed to change a charter ordinance. It was Charter Ordinance number 19. It dealt with guest tax, okay? The guest tax in 2010 from before was 5%, okay? So if we needed to change that guest tax, why didn't we just pass an ordinary ordinance to do that? I mean, from what we said last meeting, from that court case, that's totally fine. As you explained, you've already chartered out of it, so no need to duplicate your efforts on a new charter ordinance. Just a side note, that's not how it works. But no, when the city wanted to simply change the guest tax from 5% established in 2010 to 6.5% in 2019, guess what they did? They passed a new charter ordinance. They duplicated their efforts. They increased that guest tax by 1.5%, and they had to pass a new charter ordinance to make that change. Why? Because that's the only way that you can change a charter ordinance. I mean, if it's okay.
Yeah.
5 minutes is up.
No.
No. She gets 5 unless she's on the agenda. Then she can have 15.
Anybody want to finish reading this? Because you're welcome to. Can I really not have, I have half a page left. Is anybody allowed to request that?
No, somebody can finish it up if you want more time.
You're welcome to read it if you want to.
I don't care. I'd hate for all your work to go.
No, it goes unnoticed all the time, so it's fine. You know what? It's fine. It's fine. If anybody else wants to talk about it, we can talk about it later. Has anybody ever been cut off before?
Yes.
Is anybody else here for 5-minute public comment?
What good would it be?
You get 5 minutes.
Yeah, right.
She had 5 minutes, plus quite a bit of time last meeting, and the meeting before that, and the meeting before that. So,
Mayor,
yes, Terry.
we've done that, we've been doing this for 3.5 years that I know, and there's been a lot of times when people have stood up there for longer than that. If the public wanted.
There has. We've had this conversation. We've voted on it multiple times. It's decided.
We do have discretion.
Well, actually, according to our policies, I mean, you're not supposed to keep voting on the same issue over and over again.
But we can vote on things as many times as it takes to get it right. I mean,
Not if you're voting on
Or
the
as many
same
times
thing.
as it gets it to go the way you want it to.
That's why.
that's also a tactic, correct?
Yeah, I mean, which one you wanna call it?
Well,
It's not a recommended practice.
well, sure, and it's not a
Because
regular
all that ends up
practice.
happening is the council meets and they pass something the next meeting, they change it back, and then they change it back to the next meeting, and it's not very productive.
Gotta do whatever it takes.
Is anybody else here for 5-minute public comment? Yes.
All right, Rex Estes, Ward 2. I'm just going to read through this. It's my opinion solely. Take it personal, don't take it personal, I don't care. November 2nd, 2021 is the most important day of the year. Our city's current governing body has put the future of our great, peaceful, and safe city into something that we, the majority of the citizens, are not in line with. We must vote in new leaders to the governing body. People who are competent and who will do the best for the city of Marysville. The loss of Ward 2 Councilman Terry Hughes, who is a man that showed he cared about the decisions that were voted on by the council and always wanted to make sure everyone fully understood what they were voting on. He wanted to make sure that what a yes vote and a no vote would have the effect on the citizens who elected him. Terry, thank you for your service and your commitment to do what was best for the city. All right, we're going to vote for the competent leaders, not the incompetent ones. I hope you all agree that it only took a couple months for all the citizens of Marysville and the surrounding area to see that our council is full of incompetency and poor decision-making for the people who elected them and for the city they govern. It is our responsibility to take our city back. They could have fixed it and restored some trust they lost from those who voted them in, but after 4 meetings of seeing the city hall full of pissed off citizens voicing their opinion about the way the elected governing body was conducting business, that will have or has already tarnished the reputation of this city. The decision to give up your vote for non-elected city officers could destroy the city we know and the reason we love our peaceful and safe city. So we're going to vote for the competent people. And the competent people are all the people that voted against 1900. So, and here's just some side notes, my opinion. Bobby Pipia. These are things that, just since I've been coming to the meeting.
We don't need to be attacking council members personally.
I'm gonna give an opinion on, and it's all what you guys said. I'm not making it up. I'm not gonna make it up. It's all based on quotes, basically. Okay, is there a problem with that? If there is, I'll go on. I won't do that.
I would prefer that you don't attack council members personally.
Did you?
If you have a policy opinion or something to say about an action taken by the governing body as a whole, then that's a conversation to be had.
Well, it is an action taken, and if you would have let me share, you would understand how it's all comes together as one on being competent or incompetent.
Are you talking about a particular vote?
I'm talking about the vote for 1900 to begin with and everything that goes along with it. And the conversations had about it by each member up here. Mr. Fry, Mrs. Pipia, all you guys. You all had something to say about that. And I believe the city needs to hear it, if they haven't heard it. Things that were discussed in these meetings by Mr. Bikeman, if that's how you say your name. You know, you talked about voting no against that 1900. Things that kind of matter. But it means you've interrupted me. I don't have a problem with that. I can go downtown and I can voice my opinion downtown just as well. Okay? So, that's fine. I won't attack Mr. Fry because he stood firm against the ordinance 1900. He's also made the repeal order 1900. He was also the one that wanted to get the ball rolling in regards to the hearing for the chief of police. Them are all things that are, to this city's, are big things, you know. Y'all voted, you know, against it, you know. It all fell on deaf ears. It was crazy. He talked briefly about the committees that are formed and how they should be used. Of course, the mayor had a different opinion about the way they should be used, but so be it. We have new write-in candidate for Ward 3. And once again, I'm not gonna bash anybody, but I could. All right. Mr. Keith, he spoke out in discussion about an August 28th meeting. Right here, everybody heard it, out here heard it. You didn't go behind the door to hear it, so I'm gonna talk about it real quick. Talked about a meeting that was called to have Chief Todd come down here for a meeting with you guys.
Your 5 minutes are up.
How much time did you take?
Yeah, you can't
I gave
do
him
that.
another 30 seconds. It was 7:20, yes, it was 7:20 when we started.
Give him an extra minute since he was interrupted.
An extra minute, okay.
Extra minute.
An extra minute.
But he stood firm on his beliefs on 1900. All right, now if I may talk about the mayor and why I believe you're not a bad guy. None of you are bad people. I'm just telling you that you didn't do a very good job. Okay? The current mayor's tiebreaker vote of yes to adopt 1900 is the reason Chief Ackerman has been treated like a criminal. The reason he has not been given a hearing and the reason he was terminated. And let us all remember that his vote also is the reason that your vote as a council was taken away. Your vote, all that stuff lies on you because you had that tiebreaker vote.
Mm-hmm. I did. I broke the tie.
And you guys won't. You had the whole town was here. Jeez. So the current mayor, he doesn't want to. He don't want to play the role of the mayor. He don't want to do the appointments.
Okay, your extra minute's up now.
Is it?
It is.
Well, I hope I've made my point. That you guys, I hope it don't bite you in the rear, but I know a lot. I've learned a lot about the releasing Mr. Ackerman, and I'm telling you that you guys should have probably had a meeting with him and talked it out, because I just know that. So thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody here for 5-minute public comment? Okay. We'll move on to business and discussion items. First up, we have policy resolution number 91, the meal reimbursement policy.
Give any say. Resolution number 91.
Okay.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Yes, Diane?
Is there some reason we changed it?
Well, I mean, the cost of meals keep going up. is the main.
Every time the police or anybody
reason.
would come with a ticket, they couldn't eat breakfast for $10 anymore. It used to be free in the motels, but now, and lunch,
a lot
you
of them
cannot
they
possibly
killed
eat
it off
lunch
with
for
COVID
10.
and they
They
don't
did
bring it
not
back.
change the 25, they left the dinner alone, but they just changed the breakfast.
It'd been nice if you told us what it used to be.
Oh.
I tried to find it, and
Oh,
I
you
couldn't
should-
find, I couldn't
$10.
find.
10, 10, and 25.
Yeah,
It hadn't been changed since 2005.
right.
Right, yes, it is a long time ago.
Okay. Any further discussion?
And it used to be 30 days, and now it's 10 days?
No, and we didn't change anything else, just the money.
Okay, at one time it had to be in by 30 days, I thought.
This is the exact ordinance that was passed in 20,
Okay, well, I tried to find the
Well,
old,
yeah.
tried to find the old ordinance, and I couldn't find the old ordinance.
it's not an ordinance, it's a policy.
Well, a policy, I mean, I tried to find the old
Oh.
policy, and I couldn't find the old policy. That's what I'm trying to find out what it was changed from, so. It'd be nice if you put in what the old one was, so we knew what we were changing it from, some.
Yeah.
But, okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Next, we have policy resolution number 92, establishing fees for the ULDC.
The only thing that's changing on there is, when they did the policy in the 90s, they never set a fee for the site plan. And so Will came up against that. It says in the book there needs to be a fee for the site plan. And so all it's doing is adding that $50 fee for a site plan.
Move to approve resolution A92.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Next, we have the lease purchase agreement with Citizens State Bank.
This is basically, you guys approved the lease purchase for the $700,000 at 3.08% at the last meeting. The bank wanted a resolution in response just to make it official, so this is the resolution showing exactly what you guys approved last time. So,
Okay.
Move to approve the lease purchase agreement resolution with Citizens State Bank.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Next, we have the airport donation, which was very
It's just
generous.
one page, yeah.
you want to talk about that, Cindy?
The trustee for that Viola Art Cooksey Trust brought in a check to me and said that they would like to donate $24,000, which would almost pay, $25,100 is what the rent would be for 3 years, if everybody had a plane in it. But his request was that if they do not have a plane in, which our new lease says you have to anyway, he did not want to pay toward it, but that he would pay the rent every year for 3 years with this money. Which is, because he wanted to make sure that the airport stayed viable, and that was important to him. The question would be, do we do it 1 year at a time? I would say and hold it, because the problem is if you sell your hangar or, tear it down, do something, we don't know. We can hold the money and just pay it, okay, send you the thing and say it's been paid. We will send a letter to all the people who own the hangars and tell them if you want to accept the gift.
So how many hangars don't have planes in them, do you know? Do you have any idea?
He told me 2. I don't know if that's fact or fiction. I've not been in them. He told me one was totally empty, and one of them we know has farm equipment in it.
How many total hangars are
There are 10 plane spots. There's a different number of hangars in
there's
plane spots.
Then plane spots, that's true. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 hangars, but more spots for planes. And they're charged by the size of the hangar.
I make a motion we do 1 year at a time.
Where does that money get held at?
in the airport,
Just
in the airport.
fund.
This, they would be in the general fund, but under airport, and then go to the next year for us.
It'll be coded that way.
Right, because the airport revolving fund has the money in that comes from the farm ground. It's, because this is to pay for the AWAS, the electricity, our wages for the guys mowing and,
Well,
yes.
that way in case we have an increase in rent or for some
Right,
reason, you know.
this would pay for the increase that we had, you know, okay, so.
Okay.
1 year at a time, okay?
Okay, so I have a motion for 1 year at a time. Do I have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Abstain.
Oh.
7:01.
Good call.
Yeah, no, it's
You got one out there.
Interest, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up, we have the economic development, demolition at 911 North 10th. I don't know if did anybody have a chance to drive by that one? Look at it?
Yeah,
I
It-
did.
it's right next to Charlie's.
It's,
Well,
and I haven't been inside of it, so it sounds like it's better on the inside than it looks on the outside. The main thing, probably more than anything, is it is not in one of the qualifying subdivisions that we laid out in that ordinance.
Really?
But if we can get something tore down and it looks better, I mean, even though it's not in the it's not in the right subdivision, I don't know if that should make a difference. I don't,
It's rentable and we need real houses.
is somebody gonna spend the money
It
to
would need
rent
a
it? To fix it up to
substantial-
rent it?
It would need a substantial amount of work to be rented.
I don't think
From what I
Charlie's
saw
pro-
just
I-
from the
The
sidewalk.
ROI is not there.
I was gonna say, I don't think that somebody's gonna buy it and rent it, and, I think we can get it tore down and get it, I don't know. My opinion is get it tore down and get it cleaned up and
We need
get it out of there.
We need renters, but this looks like too many of our rentals already.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this is the rental we need.
I wasn't in it, so.
I don't know what the inside looks
How
like.
long's
The
it been?
outside's pretty rough.
Has
I
anybody
just
been
went by
living in
what
there
Will said in his art.
lately?
Hmm?
How long's it been since anybody lived there?
I don't know.
I doubt it, quite a while.
Didn't he have it as storage for a while?
Well, from what I understand, that maybe they've been talking about tearing it down and splitting the lot.
Yes, he does have someone who wants to buy it.
between two people, so I don't think anybody's lived there for quite some time, so.
Yeah.
I think it's just
I would
been,
say not.
it's probably been used for storage, but I think we can get it cleaned up and tore down. I think that might be a good thing to do.
So the question is, I believe these are the questions, is it in there, we set out a criteria in the first place. Yes, the council could go, outside the limits, and that says case-by-case basis. So one, it's not in, you can make the case to, put it together. Is it blighted? And our staff, went through it and didn't feel, yes, some of it's in bad shape, but it's not blighted, by,
So is it more on the outside than the inside?
yeah.
I haven't seen the inside. If I were to walk by it, I would consider, if it was next to me, I would consider it blighted. I would, if it was next to my house.
I wouldn't want it next, I wouldn't really want it next to my house.
It's, and it's hard to tell. I mean, if you put a roof on it and you trim the trees, how much better would it look? But there's window issues, there's siding issues, there's a lot of issues. It's up to council. If you want to, it's within your power if you want to go ahead and approve this one.
How's Charlie feel about that? Removal?
He wants us to help
Well,
take it down because he wants to
I'm
sell the
assuming
ground.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that one of those single or double lots?
I'd say it's a single. but
Single,
I
so he
don't
can't,
know for sure.
isn't it stated that now a single lot, you can't just go in and build another home on? No, you
You
can't on a
can,
single?
you're sometimes limited on size. Now, if he's planning on tearing it down and splitting it, they could probably, I don't know what their plans are. If they want to build a garage or add on their houses, I don't know.
Okay.
That'd be a question to ask them, but, you could do something with the lot if you tore it down, but it doesn't sound like that's what they're intending to do.
Well,
So, Terry?
Well, wasn't the intention of this plan when we put it in about this 2,500 that it was gonna be an existing system where somebody else could sit on, or do something on it. If this is the case, it's gonna be divided, and that sewer system, water system would never be used anyway. I don't know where the city should take that responsibility on. It doesn't make sense. This is a private party thing. We're not trying to
Yeah, like I say,
maintain a,
Will's opinion was that it didn't meet the criteria.
what?
Will's opinion was that it did not meet the criteria. And it also was not, in a qualifying subdivision. But like I say, it's up to council whether they would want to approve that or not. Because he can make exceptions.
Criteria on 905 North 10th Street.
No.
No, that's where,
I mean, it's the same property, but
Yeah, it's
it's
the
not in
same
the right
property,
place,
yeah.
and it wasn't, he didn't feel that
I
the
just noticed
structure
it's
was.
got two different addresses.
No.
Two
Well,
different
this
houses.
is where the person that owns the other house
Charlie
lives. He
Charlie
lives
lives
next
at
door,
911.
yeah.
Sorry.
Property's actually at
Okay.
905.
That is
It's-
confusing.
It's
That
a house next
For a
to
couple
the
of-
north of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they both got the same name.
You're right,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's, Charlie owns both houses.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, does somebody want to make a motion?
Diane did, we don't have.
Diane did? Okay. Did you make a motion or not?
No.
No, she didn't. I was reading above the airport one, she did.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Okay.
My last question is, how long, if we do approve this, does he have to tear it down?
I mean, usually it happens fairly quickly, within a few months.
No,
No,
no, we've
aren't
got
done.
some that have been
Oh,
over a
yeah.
year.
Yeah.
Generally, it happens pretty quickly.
We
There's
need
some
to-
down there, there's two of them
No,
that
no,
have
it
not
don't,
been.
because the guys that run the heavy equipment are probably in the fields taking care of the farmers.
Yep.
Probably like when the snow flies.
This time of year, yeah, it could
Yeah,
be
it
later.
takes, they're busy.
My question
We-
is, if we don't approve it, I mean,
They're still gonna take it down, and they're still
well,
gonna do that.
I was gonna say.
They are,
if nobody's
because-
gonna fix, if our goal is to save a structure for people to live in, I don't see that happening.
I don't need
Yeah.
it,
No,
but I don't, on the other hand, you tear it down, they split the lot.
Yeah.
I didn't say that, I said at one time they
Yeah, I know,
said
but-
that.
Oh, they are, because they're already building on the other lot.
Chances are, when they tear it down, they split the loss.
Building on the other lot.
On the, where the, Markwood is. He's already adding
That doesn't mean that they're gonna build a garage.
on, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I know now, when you tear a house down, you know, we gotta fill sewer line with concrete to block all that off and everything, so.
We do or they do?
They do, the contractor
They do.
does. You know, but if someone's gonna build on it, you wouldn't. You'd wanna bring a pipe up so they could find it at a later date.
Yeah.
There's a motion on the
Okay.
floor.
Does anybody want to second that? Have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. All right, any further discussion?
What is the criteria? What is its criteria? Do we have?
Blighted, and there were certain subdivisions when that ordinance was written, or that policy was written.
Right.
And it was focused on the more,
Is that something we could put in the city book in the manual, so we know what his criteria is?
Yeah, there
well,
is.
yeah, we've got a policy, that spells out the subdivisions, but it was focused more on the more blighted areas,
It's this
you know,
one.
the older areas of town. It doesn't get quite, you know, that far north in that area. A lot of that's newer housing when you get much further north.
Well, there, like you said, isn't there construction going on next door to it?
Yes.
Yeah. So, they might be able, it's a lot that can be split legally?
You can split it,
They
and then
can?
they'll combine it into their
Yeah.
parcels, is what they'll do, because that's what happened when I tore down that house next to me. They combined it, the county did. Okay, I have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 I got 4.
Oh,
Okay, 4-4. I get to break the tie.
Well, you gotta say all opposed, just to make sure.
All opposed?
Aye.
so that's
I'll vote yes. Go ahead and get it. Incentivize them to tear it down. In my opinion, it's blighted.
lost. You had to, oh my God, I'm lost here, Keith.
Okay. Next up, we have the clarification of the mayor's authority as submitted by Terry Hughes. And I did write something up, and I had a phone conversation with you a couple weeks ago, and I guess I thought that I had explained it. But then I guess he called down to City Hall to try and get some clarification, and I don't think Cindy had
Yes, I
a lot.
did. I had a lot of phone calls about it.
And then you sent me an email, which I am not the best about checking my emails. So I did prepare a written statement if you would like to hear it.
Before you do,
Okay.
I have one question for our clerk, and that involves the code. You laid a paper out.
Right,
In the 1205, before you tell me your statement, why don't you read that? And you can read it out loud to everybody.
We can. I've got it in my statement too.
It says that you have the power.
It says the mayor shall preside at all meetings of the governing body. The mayor shall have tie-breaking vote on all questions when the members present are equally divided. The mayor shall have the superintending control of all the officers and affairs of the city and shall take care that the ordinances of the city are complied with.
The word superintending control, you have that. It's in our code.
Did
book.
have. Did have.
Still do, the code book's still in effect.
If you read on further, it says that council can basically lay out guidelines as to what the mayor's role is.
And where did those guidelines get laid out?
When we adopted the governing body handbook back in, was that July of 2020? You voted on it. It was an 8-0 vote.
It says in that book that you still have superintendent authority.
No, it defines very much more clearly what the mayor's role is. That's still in the code book, but it also says under 1-207, that the governing body may designate whether the administration of city business and affairs, the administration of policy, or the carrying out and enforcement of any ordinance or other order shall be performed by a committee, the mayor, or by appointed officer. Which when you adopted that governing body handbook, you laid that out.
Not to supersede our code book.
The code book says that you can do that very thing if you want, if council chooses to.
Does it say it in the code book?
It says, this is the code book. It says right here in 1-207, as I just read, it says that council has the authority to lay out who has what powers. And when you adopted that governing body handbook, it laid out the role of the mayor, much more clearly defined.
Well, then go ahead and tell us about all this power that you got stripped from you.
I've got a list. You sure you want the whole list?
I want to hear what you got stripped from.
All right. 1, the council officially adopted the governing body handbook. Before that, the role of mayor was described in 1-205 in our city code book. And 1-205 states that the mayor shall have superintending control of all the officers and affairs of the city and shall take care that the ordinances of the city are complied with. I had numerous conversations with the league about actions of the previous mayor, and they were unsure what the role of the mayor was due to the general broadness of that sentence. The governing body officially adopted the governing body handbook, which corrects this and much more narrowly defines the role of the mayor. Okay, 2nd, I do not show up at every planning and zoning and appeals board meeting to run it. When I have attended, I sit in the audience and I listen. Those committees have a chair, and they are supposed to be independent of the council. That was not the case under the previous mayor. There was an even incident where a chair resigned in protest because he was not allowed to run his own meeting. 3, Minutes of the council meeting are now prepared by the city clerk with no input from me. Previously, the mayor would read the minutes before the packet went out. Then the mayor would make changes, and that was what ended up in the packet. I don't do that. The city clerk prepares the minutes and the council sees them at the same time that I do. 4, I show up at the committee meetings, but I don't consider myself as a deciding vote. I feel my role is to run the meeting, but it is up to the committee to decide what their recommendation is. If 2 members agree on something, then that is a recommendation that will go back to council. Previously, it was handled more as if the mayor had a vote, and if there was a 2-2 tie, then the mayor's opinion was the way that it went. Another way that I have limited my powers. 5, previously the newsletter was edited and many times largely put together by the mayor. I have had no input on what goes in the newsletter. It is focused on what we've accomplished as a governing body in a city, not what I've accomplished as mayor. It's a group effort. I don't have that delicate of an ego. 6, previously the mayor would tell the city attorney to not respond to requests from council members. I have not limited access to the city attorney. If a council member has a question, they are free to ask it. That does not mean that I want to have a large attorney bill due to questions that our city staff can answer. But if they have a question, I want them to be able to receive an answer. 7, I haven't altered anything that came out of a committee. Specifically, I remember a snow route plan that was passed through a committee that was then altered before it went to council to include an elected official's street. Number 8, I've never yelled at or belittled staff. There were incidents in the past of this. Number 9, I've never stopped a council meeting council member from making a motion. I remember one time in particular where a motion was denied being on the floor. Then the council had to appeal the ruling of the chair, which the mayor also tried to not allow. I think we had 5 or 6 motions on the floor at the same time, which show how chaotic it can come when council is allowed to do its will. The council's right to put whatever motion they want on the floor, whether I personally agree with it or not, is their right. Number 10, I haven't loaded a committee up with preferred council members and then sent items, regardless of subject matter, to that committee to spit out whatever outcome I wanted. This was done previously with the Admin and Finance Committee. I feel council should decide which committee is a logical choice to have an item sent to, and that is their choice. That's another way that I've limited the power of the mayor. Number 11, I've not given out a single pardon since becoming mayor. Previously, there was an incident where the police department was told to issue tickets to people blowing grass onto the highway that was unsafe for motorcycles. When the department did as instructed, one person issued a ticket, contacted the previous mayor and asked for a pardon. At the next council meeting, the police department was thrown under the bus and the individual was pardoned. If council asks the department to do something, we should stand behind them and when they do what we ask of them, not leave them on their own to lessen the pressure on ourselves. And I'm sure if I would have had more time, I could have thought of quite a few more. But that's a few of them. Just a few examples of how I've limited my power.
That's the end of your statement?
Yeah, that's the end of my statement.
It's very interesting. I understand you have a lot of difficulty with the previous mayor, but it doesn't answer the question about what powers of authority has been taken away from you or
I just explained all the different powers that I have limited.
No, it doesn't. Those powers are
The problem was before, all these things shouldn't have been happening, but what was in our code book said that the mayor had superintending authority, and the mayor took that to mean precisely that.
It's still in the book.
That the committees were the mayor's committees. And what got kicked out of a committee should be what the mayor decided needed to come out of a committee. I don't agree with that.
Well,
I did not appreciate that when I was a council member, and I have tried to not run as mayor, the council. I will try to treat the council as I would like to have been treated when I was a council member. I've tried to do that as best as I can. Now, every meeting you seem to attack me here lately, regardless of what the subject matter is, that even I can have a phone conversation with you, and that's not enough that I gotta write it all down in writing and present it at a council meeting. Do I really like airing a bunch of dirty laundry at a council meeting? No, but I'm telling you, I got limits. If I have a conversation with you and try and explain it, and it's not good enough, then that's the road we're gonna go down.
Those weren't the things we were talking about, Jason.
No, they are precisely things that were issues under the previous administration. I lived it. I know what the problems were. There are still some council members that were on here during that and remember it well.
Well, I'm glad there's a record of your all the things that you lost your power from.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, not to rub
Yes.
salt in anybody's wounds, but
Okay.
that's code book back in 2011. I keep digging, I keep researching.
Yes.
And something popped up rather interesting. It kind of addresses your question. And in 2011, they purposely made sure that one office was removed as an appointed officer. You know which one? And there was a reason, there was a purpose. It was a police chief. And they did it because they thought the incoming mayor had pledged to remove him. So what they did is they made him an employee so he'd be protected under the city's employee handbook.
In 2011.
2011. Yes. I thought that was interesting. It puts a lot of things at a different perspective. I thought it was more of a high-level hierarchy type thing, but my research is showing it was purposely to protect one person. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent.
Do you have a copy of that I could see?
I don't have any written materials on that. I know I prepared for you I thought you were gonna ask for that, but I don't have anything written. I just telling you what I dig and research, trying to find out the accurate information. No, I don't have published materials. It's not like the.
We need to have that, some published material so everybody in town knows it.
Well, there is no published materials on that. But you know why? It is a political decision how you operate internally. This is an administrative type of deal, administrative internal workings. And I think the Fall case went to that. They even talked about tax.
Yes.
Court cost is not tax, and that's why it's not treated the same. It's like the liquor laws. They're gonna be treated differently. This is an administrative type of proceeding, and that's why, I did follow the code book on citation, the dot ellipsis, it's called ellipsis, so it was cited correctly. But it's to pull out the important principle, and that principle was reinforced by the Kansas legislature. So, I don't have a personal opinion, I don't have a dog in the hunt or dog in the fight here. They've asked me for legal advice, I try to do my best. And I just keep digging this, the community has such tension about this, I kept digging, trying to find out what is the correct answer. That's all I can say, Terry.
Okay.
Well, I'll do some digging, see if I can see it.
Okay.
Fair enough.
That it?
You've addressed the issue. I found out one tower in this whole town I've seen stripped is from the council, not from you. So if you believe that, that's fine.
I would disagree with that. Don't have anything, notices and hearings. Next we have the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There you go. Next we have appropriations ordinance number 3758.
Move to approve appropriation ordinance 3758, amount of $643,591.89.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yes, Diane?
I have one question. What was the Bruce's for $75 for the police department? What was that for?
They towed a vehicle, that's all I know.
Well, yeah, but was it a police vehicle? Was it a personal vehicle? I mean,
It was a Pontiac Bonneville.
Says 4th and Calhoun.
Right.
yeah, but why did we pay for it?
My guess is that it was, not running, or
Probably had flat tires or something.
maybe it was drugged, I don't, they don't
Okay.
tell us.
They could have gotten a ticket and refused to remove it. I mean, that could have been one
That's happened
situation.
too if it doesn't.
And then we pay for it and then charge.
It's
Them.
added to the
And then
court
it's added
cost.
to the.
Charge the person back for it?
Yep. If we want to move, we have to pay the supplier.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call?
Pipia,
Yes.
Fry,
Yes.
Troller,
Yes,
Hughes,
Yes.
Beichman, Price,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
and Thrum.
Yes.
Okay, next up, staff reports.
All right, first on my list, we were approached by Ellen Barber with Partnership for Growth, and someone who was interested in investing in a housing development. Met with Will and I, the building inspector. Ellen was inquiring about the possibility of putting housing in the southwest corner of the airport property. This is the part of the property we've discussed previously where we didn't put a possible industrial park.
Business park.
A business park, a park of some sort. So the idea of building something there is not foreign to us. So they wanted to know from the council what kind of likelihood it would be that they would be allowed to build housing out there. Their idea was to put low-cost housing in for either seniors or others with moderate income. I have included a map showing where the property is located and the types of housing looking at having built. And the type is on page 30, starting on page 30 is the company they were looking at, the out-of-the-box company, and it's aptly known because that's how the house comes. It comes in a box. It's insulated panels they put up on a slab foundation. They estimated that the cost was 30% cheaper than building a stick house, a normal house. And they were pushing for like 3-bedroom, 2-bath housing. And in here you can see the pictures, a very standard, this one they painted all white. I think it was probably one of their model houses, but they could make them different colors, obviously. One of the selling points of the houses were they stood up to high winds and earthquakes because they were designed to be placed in natural disaster areas where storms and things have already went through. So that's what they are looking at, and they did. I mean, one of the questions that did pop up was, what is if the city was willing to allow a housing development out there? Also, they would be remiss in not asking about streets and utilities and stuff like that. So keep that in mind. If the city is interested in having houses at the airport property, I mean, how much the city would be willing to provide. An answer to that is not necessary tonight. I wanted to bring you up to speed, and if we want to have a separate meeting about this, a committee meeting or something like that to discuss it further. We do have preliminary plans of a business park being put there, very preliminary. It has a cul-de-sac design and all that. So if the airport committee wants to look at it, that's an option. But they wanted to start the conversation. They are looking at other locations.
They want these as rentals, or do they want these, or
They did not
buy
say.
these houses, home ownership?
They did not say what the intent was. They just had an investor.
I mean, I like the idea myself. I'm not sure if up there on the airport is the
location.
best place.
We've got enough water problems out there as is.
Well,
You
it's
put
not
more
even
buildings there.
that. That's a lot of traffic that goes down that
Oh,
street.
yeah,
I don't think
and
they're gonna
noise.
be really happy with the noise and everything.
No.
That's,
I mean,
I
think
wouldn't want to
there's-
live by an airport.
And a
Landlords.
24-hour
Yeah.
factory.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think we have a housing need. I think the houses look.
Yeah, we
great.
do,
Yeah.
yeah.
That all looks super. It's all the location doesn't seem
Right.
appropriate.
Okay.
I mean, for two reasons, well, three reasons. Water, I don't think people are really gonna love living there.
No.
Plus there'll be like tree restrictions and all sorts of things. I mean, who's gonna want that? But also, yeah, I'd like to reserve it. I still think a business park up there is a good idea, and that makes sense
To
if
me, it
anything,
makes
so.
more sense considering what is around. To me, it's a
Right.
commercial area. It's not really I wouldn't consider it a residential area. But,
Yeah.
And I
I mean,
think we
would I
need to.
love to see these going out at Keystone, filling in that development out there? Yes.
Or
I mean,
really, and there's a lot. I mean, look at all the green space on that east edge where there's already utility, you know, places we could hook in.
Yeah. Yep.
And housing that's not government
What's the
subsidized, that
website?
you have to have a requirement to be low rent.
No,
I mean-
and that's why I used the word moderate, as, pretty specifically. They were not talking about government subsidized low-income housing. They wanted something affordable.
We have enough low rent, government subsidized housing, I think.
So, yeah, they were pretty specific. It was just, affordable housing, and it's not government subsidized.
But you don't know whether they were gonna be rentals or own.
Nope.
Yeah.
I would be curious what the cost is.
Yeah.
I mean, roughly
Yeah.
on one of these
I'd be
houses.
curious what other sites they're looking at as well.
Okay.
I mean, are they open book about that, or is it kind of close to the vest thing?
I don't know if they were talking openly, but they were looking at some other, Keystone might have been an option.
Or wonder if even at, North and 11th Street there, east of Country Place, that's all city limits and fallow.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's not far away if they think that part of town would be an easy sell.
Well, that's, a much more peaceful area
Yeah.
east than it is right there at the airport.
And still have good access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always there's that option right next to the water tower that,
Sure.
that was
that's
platted
true.
at one point in time. It kind of elapsed.
Is that the one that, does it have sewer? Is that the one that
That
has
one
to have
already has
sewer?
and
Does it?
gas line
Okay,
by it.
okay.
So it has most of the amenities.
Okay, well, that would be a good spot then too, yeah.
Or are they not doing, development north of Cataqui anymore?
Well, they're wanting
That's
a
business,
industrial park,
industrial.
not,
And this is housing.
That's where they
Yeah,
want to put
and
the jail.
honestly, I think you could argue that out of those two
Oh, yeah?
business park, industrial park sites, if you were gonna put housing on
Yeah,
one,
actually, housing
north of
would be better
Canaquip
off
would
on
make
one
more
side.
sense probably than, there at the airport across from Landals.
That's
But
true, that would be a nice
in my
place for housing.
opinion, but
No, this was a separate, and she was representing a separate investor, that came to Marysville.
My concern in this first photo is that drainage ditch, that you're gonna have to reroute that, I mean.
Well, the box is relative,
Yeah.
you stay out of the drainage ditch. I just put the box and kind of stopped it right at that drainage ditch.
Well, I think it'd be nice to go see someplace where they put up one of these houses.
yeah, I would like to see some.
Yeah.
Find out where they put
I'm
something up.
curious
talk
what
to
these
them.
houses are like.
There are, I mean, I don't know if there's any in the area. The example, Panama City, I mean, I don't know where exactly,
Panama City, Florida?
Oh, maybe it is.
I'll
Florida.
go.
I will too.
but, so the site has, a couple different, options, but they were pointing to that Panama City, gallery option. I don't know, where the other locations, would be where they've been putting these up, but, I was hoping, yeah, that's why I included the information from the company, but, if the council's interested, I mean, that's fine, I can pass that on. If not, I could also pass that on as well. As far as that location specifically,
For the residential.
for the residential,
Residential at the
Yeah.
airport.
yes.
What's council's feelings on
No.
that?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Well, it sounds like it's
Any other
unanimous.
place?
Oh, wait a minute, one question. How would that land work? You know, like up there at the hangars, you own the hangar, but you don't own the land.
Right.
Is that the same thing going on?
There would have to be, because I'm sure there was a plan, talking about, so the industrial park, or business park, up there. There would have been a way to, allocate that land or have them utilize that land, for that specific.
Could be a long-term lease.
That would be probably a legal document, either a long-term lease, or I don't even know if you could get rid of the land, but, that would be a discussion.
Well, but what we're saying is if somebody walked away from the thing, and even if you did get rid of the land, then the city would be responsible for whatever had to be done.
Right.
Which could happen, which I think happened years ago with,
Yeah, it could.
with
It
the
could be a
housing,
mess. Yeah.
apartments that the city ended up owning.
I think it's a great idea, and I like the look of the houses, but just not in that spot.
Not there.
I just don't think that's responsible.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Alright. I guess we'll communicate her, we like the idea, but
Pick a better spot.
maybe a different spot, yeah.
All right, next on my list is, I've been working on getting a grant, or the grant for tourism, for that 7th Street corridor. I've been talking with North Central Regional Planning about it. They seem to think they're fairly certain they could fit us in, and I even had a meeting with them and the director, I'll call him the director of the area who administers the grant, on last Thursday regarding the project, just to make sure the project fit within the tourism guideline, and he felt that it did. But one of the requirements for the application is the city has to get a preliminary engineering report, and listed here is word for word everything that the federal department requires for the EDA application. That was just copied and pasted in there, and CES's quote for how much a PER would cost. CES quoted $24,700 to do the PER for this application. And the application would help describe the project, figure out a potential cost for the project, and give an overall view of what the project could be for the intended application for the people to review at EDA. So this is something that has to be done if we're serious about getting an application in for the grant. And after more discussion, the grant is due January 31st.
Oh. CS didn't think it'd be a problem getting.
No, they wouldn't, I asked them if they could fit it in, they wouldn't have submitted otherwise.
Is that the only bid we had?
That's the only bid I got it in a week, so, yeah, that's the only bid we had.
Well, what are council's thoughts?
If we want to apply for the grant, we got to have it.
Is this gonna cover and fix some of our drainage problems in that whole 9 yards?
That it will be fixed in the, cover the design. This won't be a design, but we will discuss in this process those drainage issues. So yes, it will be a discussion.
And will the discussion entail of how far we'll take this, like if we gotta take it clear to the west end of town?
If it has to be. I mean, that again, if I foresee, for instance, Parks and Rec, or, because it's a trail, or the street committee being, or maybe both, being involved in going, okay, this is what we need to do along this trail, and can it be done within the confines, or does it need to be extended? That is a discussion for you guys to get into this process.
I say that area is so flat down there, I mean, we're looking at lots of drainage that we're gonna have to take care of.
Yes, and I mean, I have some ideas that could help with that, going beyond making the tubes bigger down the road, because that's a necessary evil. We could do, and these are discussions with an engineer, but we could do bioretention areas where it holds some of the water back from just rushing through the pipe, actually filters it out and gives it more time to get to where it needs to go, possibly alleviating some issues. and creating a natural, look to it. That's one of the ideas we can discuss. And then, going beyond that. But again, lots of discussion, that's gonna have to happen for this, but, we need somebody to put the PR together.
When you said North Central Regional Planning was pretty sure?
Yes, they said yes. I mean, we just gotta get, we just gotta get it going.
I'm pretty sure it's not real sure.
It was, when the first conversation was pretty sure, and then it was like, oh, here's our thing. And once you're ready to go, we'll put this together.
But we're gonna have to put out $24,000 to get somebody to look at this?
Yes.
Look, I hear you, Terry, because, I mean, we've got drawers full of plans that we've paid for engineering on that have gone nowhere. But I think that, I mean, if we're gonna apply for this application, we have to do it.
There was enough
So,
interest in it.
There was.
By the businesses that it affects that,
And realistically, those water problems
Yes.
they're a problem now. They're
Right.
gonna solve
They're
themselves,
not gonna go
so.
away.
right.
Nope.
And if we can get a grant to help pay for that, and ultimately,
You have a lot of birds with one stone would be.
right.
Well, you got a guy
And once we have this done, if we don't get this grant, but another grant opens up in a couple years, we can
We
use
still
this
have,
to
we'll have the
resubmit.
PER to use that.
Yeah, so, we should be able to.
And we've had a good year for sales tax, so.
Yes.
It's a
We
good
may not
place.
build another wind
This
farm.
is a good place to park a little of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we do
The,
let's see, the preliminary engineering report for
24/7.
24/7 for the 7th Street corridor.
Second.
So coming out sales tax.
Sales tax.
Okay. Any further discussion? Yes, Terry?
Was there any negotiating with CES about this figure?
We've
Or was
never-
this
I
a
mean,
lump sum figure that he sent us and we're just gonna
typically
pay-
don't ever negotiate on engineering fees. I mean, I can't remember us ever doing that. I mean, we have
just
got
pay whatever
multiple
they
bids.
want?
Well,
Is that it?
we've got a pretty short window of time here. We don't really have a lot of time to,
So we're over a barrel, so we're gonna spend money.
if you want to apply for the grant application, then this is the option.
Well, we could at least negotiate with them about if they've got the figures and stuff for us to get the grant. If we don't get the grant, maybe there could be a little kickback.
If they don't, they're gonna do the work. I mean, they're doing the work regardless of if we get the grant or not. I can't expect them to
They're just gonna
do
be-
that engineering and not get paid contingent on whether we get the grant or not. I mean,
But that's a lot of lines getting drawn. 24,000 is a lot to draw lines on paper to tell somebody else how to do it.
it is, but we've gotta, I mean, this is what's required for the grant application. I mean, it's not something we can do in-house.
There's a lot of area down there.
Yeah, there is.
And just to be clear, if you see all that list of items, the typical, so for instance, if they were to do a CDBG PER, it'd be probably half the cost of this. It's, the grant is requiring so much more information than a normal PER.
There's a lot of interest in that. And
There is.
I mean, it's a lot of money, but the community's behind it. Because everybody got tired, they're tired of looking at it, they're tired of the dust blowing, they're just tired of the mess down there. It has been, how many years since the railroad took, it's
quite
been
a
a long
few.
time. And this has been our first real opportunity to move forward, and yeah, the taste of that tossing out that much money and maybe not get the grant is not anything you really wanna, think about. But I think that we have a good base for getting that, once they come in and look it over.
Plus, if we don't get this one and another one comes up, we'll be more ready.
Yes, we
Yeah.
will.
Because we'll
Exactly.
have the PER done.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second? Do I have any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. All right.
Next thing on my list, is a fire, station, change order breakdown. I had two included in the packet, the change order for the adding of the inn for north in the address. They said that it was a fair or they checked the numbers and felt it was good, they were good numbers. And then the other one that I had in the packet was the removal of the 100-gallon water heater, which would reduce the price on the project by $8,114. I included the architect's evaluation and change orders. I got the third one this morning, or not this morning, this afternoon, or right before noon, about the fast fill lines for 2 inches, and they got a breakdown of all the costs, and that's the $21,123 for 2-inch fast fill lines. So they itemized that and felt that those materials were, let's see, they're watching changes in material costs. Let me see. They reviewed it and found them generally reasonable, is what the architect said. So $21,123 for the 2-inch fast fill lines for the fire trucks. So those three are on your desk for review. Probably take them one by one, starting with. I'd probably start with the inn on the address, and go from there.
I move to approve the end.
I thought,
Why didn't we have that in before?
They just forgot it.
Well,
I mean.
it wasn't.
But we had we already paid them for the inn?
No.
No.
No, we hadn't paid them for it?
It was a mistake.
take it all apart.
Yeah. The end isn't the problem. The problem is that you've got to pull it off, then you've got to replace the metal siding that had screws put in it, and then you've got to install the new lettering.
If you drive up 20th Street, there's not a house on 20th Street that has an N on it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of mislabeled or unlabeled houses.
I
That's
know.
not
Generally, when you
I do
drive
not
around.
see 20th Street ever going south unless you take out the driveway of the bowling alley and go down the hill.
I'm a big fan of consistency, and how can we preach consistency if we don't practice it?
Most houses don't have north or south on them. They just have the address number.
Did you make a motion?
I did.
He did.
I second that.
Okay.
I sold that one.
Any further
I
discussion?
paid for it.
No, I already paid enough for them.
Any further discussion?
I have whose fault was it? Why wasn't it not checked?
I
It's
don't-
not our fault
I
that
don't
it wasn't
know. I mean,
taken care of.
On all the change order and I mean, most of it doesn't have the north in there.
Well,
if
then
it
I
was
would,
just a
I
problem
would
on the
say, I would say it
clerical
was
end.
the people, I would say it was our consultants, architects' fault then.
Or it's us, because if you look right there in project where it says 405 20th Street, but the owner, City of Marysville, 209 North 8th Street, obviously we didn't know what we were doing.
And I don't know if
We
it was
didn't put
us,
the
or I
end
don't
in
know
on
if
a
it
North
started
Street.
out that way with the grant application and it just never got caught. I don't know.
Well, I mean, you're dang near the same block
I know,
when you go up to 20th.
yeah.
I
So-
don't feel like we should have to pay for it though.
Well, neither. I think the insurance, their OEM ought to eat it myself, but.
Let's talk about that when we get to the water line.
I've-
This is nothing, that's a water line.
That's
It's gonna be
beside the point.
Any further discussion on this change order? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
2? 3? Favor, okay. 2?
Okay, so it's
6-2.
Diane and
I think,
Kevin.
were you and I
I voted against paying
You
for
were,
it.
you were against.
against?
I voted against paying for it.
You were yes. So who's the other?
You
against?
you voted, Kevin, were you against?
Yeah.
Kevin.
Oh, so it's 5-3.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I just wanted to get the nays.
I might have to ask for
Mr. Mayor.
raise of hands. Yes, Terry?
I wanted to ask a question. You did say something about the fast fill water lines that you had talked to the fire chief about that.
I mentioned it to him, yeah.
And he recommended that we needed to fill them faster in the firehouse.
I think the firefighters would prefer that they had the larger lines after my conversation with him.
And how much extra was that to change those?
Well, it's gonna be 20, what was that number? 20, whatever.
It's on your desk.
21, 123 compared to 10.
Another engineering?
I don't think we got the other
faux
one
pas?
for that inch and a half, but the inch and a half was 10 something.
Was this another engineering faux pas?
No, well, it was overlooked.
Yeah, it says it is.
Overlooked?
Because I do specifically remember at those committee meetings that they were told that they wanted fill stations on the back, because they talked about fill stations above the trucks, and the firefighters did not want that because there was an incident with that somewhere. They wanted them back behind the trucks, and I think common sense would tell you if you design fire stations that you wouldn't fill a fire truck with a garden hose unless you want to be there for days and days.
Well, yeah, that's what, yeah.
So somewhere, something got miscommunicated.
And
Because there are all kinds of fill stations there, they're just half-inch garden hose lines.
And if you remember back to the last meeting, the engineer did say that they were willing to put some money towards it.
And it does say that in the.
Reduce their
This is-
fees, I
That
think.
he's laying on your desk.
Yeah, but
One way to look at it is if it would have been included as it was supposed to from the start, it would have increased that project by another, $20,000 or whatever. Because it would have included it in the plans, the plumbers would have included that in their estimates. It just thinks that it's an unexpected cost. Did we ever find out for sure if CDBG would cover part of this?
we gotta submit
Submit it?
there, and more than likely, they're gonna see things like, they've already paid for the address on the thing, so they
Oh, they
might,
have?
so they might give money towards that, especially when you justify, that we're telling
Definitely
everybody
something
else
that-
to be accurate on their addresses, it's an emergency thing.
Yes.
This is definitely justifiable, especially if they justified having a paying for part of a concrete parking lot. This is one of those things that we're fairly certain that that CDBG will portion that 40% towards it, since we have a little bit more cap in there. So.
Okay.
My question was about whether or not the fire chief thought it was necessary to have the bigger lines in.
My conversation with him was that, yes, he would like to have larger lines.
And isn't it typical when the fire trucks are full of water, when they go to a fire, they're not in that big a hurry when they come back to fill it? They don't ever come back.
No, that's not typical at all. It's called pump and dump for a reason. And yes, we have come back and filled out of stations before. Blue Rapids has a drive-through.
Versus the hydrant.
In some situations, yes. Because the station might be closer and faster than the hydrant that's available.
What?
He's saying that it's not, that if the station's closer than, and faster than a hydrant, they'll come back to the station to fill than a hydrant.
Not all hydrants have the same flow. I mean, it depends on what
Okay,
pipe is feeding the hydrant.
I didn't understand what you said,
So-
that's all I asked.
Prime example, the hydrant down by First Commerce Bank. That is a real popular one for us to use. It's on a big water line, it's got a big street to turn around on. Fills fast, 1,000-gallon tanker in 2 minutes, 35 seconds. 3,500-gallon tankers, like 7:45. I mean, that's, yeah, because like last time we did pump and dump, we were running clear over, we're clear over by Herkimer is where we were. And we were running in and out of town. We ran right south of town. And we used First Commerce again.
Yeah.
Yes, Gary?
Lucky enough to have a councilman that's a fireman. In all your experience, how many times have you ever come back to the firehouse in a fire, when there's a fire, to refill?
Mm, 25 years, probably a dozen. Thing that changes, Terry, is the station changes the whole ballgame. Because it's where the location of this stuff is.
I understand that, I just wanted to know.
Yeah,
It just doesn't seem feasible that they would come back and back in a firehouse to fill up.
well, you also gotta remember, we get done with a fire and you're out of water, you back in the firehouse, you might be filling when you get the next call.
But didn't you just say you came from Herkimer to Marysville to fill?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how it rolls. Thank you.
Okay. Guess I would entertain a motion. What do we want to cover next in the fill lines? Okay, because that's what we're discussing right now. I have a motion on the fill lines on the change order.
Which one you want, the number, it's got an alternate down there too.
Oh, does it?
Yep. The alternate's not a good idea either. Because the alternate's gonna put the rest of the water system where you can take a chance of having water hammers in it.
Just gonna do what?
Take a chance of putting water hammers like through your drinking fountain, your hot water heater.
I'd probably recommend option number one.
I'll make a motion for option number one on the 2-inch pipe fast fill lines.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0.
Be the top.
Okay.
Okay.
21,123, if that helps you.
Yep, that's, okay.
All right, then the third option, which is basically the removal of the water heater, it was a 100-gallon tank, and just sticking with the on-demand system that was already in place. So before this, there was an on-demand system and a 100-gallon water tank. The on-demand system was just for the shower system. So when firefighters came back and needed to rinse off real fast and didn't want to lose hot water while they were basically doing HVAC cleaning of themselves, or not HVAC, but the hazmat cleaning of themselves, and not have to wait for a water heater to heat back up all the water. So that water heater, the on-demand, was just for the showers. So after discussion with the plumber, Hanover Electric, he thought that since the placement of the water heater was centrally located and close to all the fixtures, that on-demand system could handle all the fixtures. Now, he did caution if everything was running at the same time, yeah, you'd probably lose functionality. But the fact that you're not going to shouldn't be running all fixtures in all of the bathrooms at the same time, it should work really well. So that removal of the hot water heater will save us $8,114.
Okay. Do I have a motion to?
So why are we paying restocking fee when I thought you said something about this wasn't gonna work in the first place?
No, it was gonna work. It was just tall in the area. It would have worked. It was just.
It wasn't gonna fit in there anyway?
It was gonna fit. It was just.
Be tight.
It was just, he said he could fit it in there. It was just gonna be that close to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was gonna fit. It was gonna work.
You're sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he would have, he said he would have. He said he would have installed it.
That's a lot of weight on top of the mezzanine
Jason
too.
said it would have been really tight.
It would have been really
Got
tight.
it in there.
Yep, he could have got it in there.
Move to take the credit for $8,114.
So we're gonna we're gonna pay the restocking fee then?
Well, the restocking fee is probably shipping, I suppose, basically, would be my guess.
I thought at one time they said that maybe they could use it anyway, so, but.
I said I didn't know if he had a different site for it. He didn't say. But I do know it was sitting in the bay when we were talking about it.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Okay.
Okay, and then, the last thing in my list is an email, which I had to copy to Word, regarding the Lagoon project. Thaniel with BG Consultants had a meeting with KDHE representatives to talk about the project as it was. A couple questions came up. The KDHE representatives wanted to know if we would include sludge removal in the project, or if it would be a possibility if we were willing to make that a possibility. They weren't looking, the way I read it didn't read as we had to do it right now. And in fact, a further email after I got this one said it was not required for us to do this, but eventually KDHE might come in and go, yeah, you should probably desludge that. So that was one question. And then the other was they would like us to maximize the size of the new lagoon cell that we were looking to put in. And I read that as if all things stay the same in the project, make the lagoon cell as big as possible, or bigger to maximize the cell. Whereas previously we discussed if we made the lagoon cell bigger, we would make the wetlands smaller. Their reasoning behind this was that if we use the 350,000 level that we were looking at, that during the winter we were using 300,000 gallons a day, and that would be 88% of the capacity, and they didn't like using 88% of the capacity at that point in time. So again, this is not a right now decision. In fact, Daniel said we could further discuss the sizing of the cell in our design process, but wanted to keep everybody aware of what questions were coming back from KDHE.
So I thought we
You did?
visited that one time.
Oh, yeah,
He was
we
here
have.
about increasing the size of this new cell to.
Right. And we did talk about that, and I think when we centered around 350,000 gallons a day, it was okay, we make it bigger and we make that smaller. And that would be great if that's the way we wanted to go. But the way KDHE was sounding was make that bigger, make that the same. And so that just increases that
Increases
cost.
the cost.
Yeah. So, no, I remember that
To
conversation.
their point, because they're giving us some money to pay for it, they
Yes.
don't want to come back and pay for it again.
Yep.
Exactly.
You know.
So-
How much bigger would the cell get, does he know?
He didn't have a figure on that.
I didn't know if it was based on land or if it was just based on size.
I think that is probably based on, doing the math. They probably want us to look at more, if I were to read between the lines, they probably want us to look at more of a 400,000 gallon per day or something like that.
I'm not against a bigger
Or a
cell.
375.
If we don't do the desludging, that means we'll have to do another environmental study when we go to do the desludging, correct?
Right.
And if we do, so that would basically, how much does an environmental study cost?
I mean, it depends on what they're asking for.
Okay. So we're saving some money if we
Do it now.
just, if we include the desludging right now, not necessarily doing it, but include it for the environmental study.
Included in the project.
Right, included in the project, and what we thought was the cost for desludging, and it probably went up, was $400,000, $500,000, somewhere in between there. So, I mean, when we're looking at, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're looking at federal funding, so I don't know if that affects, it usually affects it, but, yeah, it's definitely a thought process.
What, 20 years old?
Yeah.
Yes.
Around there.
Yep.
I figured we'd just desludge them while we did this project. I think it's a smart thing to do
We-
with how much it's gonna cost.
We discussed it, and I think it was brought up cost, and also the way it's designed, my understanding is you're gonna be able to shut off one of those primary cells, and you could still function and desludge the other one. So it's not like you have to do it right now. But it sounds like what they do want is to include that in that FONSI right? That's
Yeah,
what he wants
right.
approval of.
Right.
To include the sludge removal in the environmental process to Fonzie. So we probably need a motion for that, I would say.
A motion to include the sludging.
To include the desludging in that impact study.
Oh, okay.
Fonzie, defining no
Yeah, the
significant
Fonzie,
impact. It
maybe-
sounds like we're not committing to doing it, but they would like to have it included in that
Yeah.
study, in case we do decide to go that route, or they make us go that route.
I make a motion to include the sludge removal into the finding of no significant impact, or the Fonzie, study.
Okay. Got a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0.
So do we need to do anything about the going up the,
That he
Maximize.
he said, that discussion can be held for, the design process.
Yeah,
Okay.
I guess I got questions for him.
That
Okay.
is all I had
That's
on my
all.
report.
Standing committee reports. Anybody have anything on street?
The crack sealing they've done on North Street out between 20th and 11th Road.
Okay.
Looks like a really good thorough job.
Uh-huh.
I assume that they're not gonna be able to get to 11th Road yet this year, the temps and everything. Cause it's kinda like it started to wrap around the corner, but it looks like maybe they just aren't gonna be able to do anymore, do you know?
They were trying to finish up, North Street right now. I'm not sure which way they were heading yet.
Okay, I didn't know if there was another project or whether they were gonna try to wrap 11th, but North looks substantially better.
Right,
So, I mean, I think that equipment was probably a really good purchase. It's made a big
Yes.
difference.
Good.
We'll talk about that.
Okay. Anything else on street? Water and wastewater?
Did they get anything done, check the drainage problem between 12th and 13th and Carolina and Alston up there?
12.
Oh, yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about. We've looked into it several times. I think you're talking about the one that storm drain that runs down through that draw where that house was removed.
Okay, now you're reminding me, yes, we checked into it. We dumped 3,500 gallons of water down it, and it drained no problem. Down the storm drain they said they were having issues with.
There was no problem?
No, it took it right away.
Okay.
I think what the issue, and this is a common theme around town in certain areas, is just that storm drain is not big enough when you get a large rain.
There's no
There'd be no
Flood.
way to fix it unless you enlarged that tube and enlarged it all the way down to wherever it
Well,
dumps in. the
even
street.
that, when we dumped it all at once, like all 3,500 gallons onto the street. The street filled up, and it kinda got to the curb, and that street is probably not getting 3,500 gallons during the rain at once. It went right down it, and had no issues. I even tried to go downstream to find it, but by the time I got there, the water was gone.
Did you put a dye in it then so that it,
No, I followed where we knew where the pipe went. Because it goes down and turns the corner and did all that. But no, where they said they were having issues, at least to my understanding, they were pointing at,
so there's no reason why it's flooding their basement then?
not from that storm drain, no.
Okay.
Okay.
If I could jump back to street,
Yes.
I
Okay.
remembered one other thing. The northwest corner of Calhoun and 12th Street, it's brick to the west, brick to the north and south, and asphalt to the east. That's been kind of cold mix patched in off and on. So for the third time this year, I stopped on my motorcycle and picked up bricks out of the middle of 12th Street that are getting kicked up, I assume, by turning traffic.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't think we've ever gone in and just relayed that brick or just, I don't know, even pulled a section out and concreted it, but there's been plenty of times where I've picked up chunks and just set them on the curb there so that, you know, that didn't get run over or wreck somebody. But that seems to be an area where I assume that the water comes rushing down there because it's right in the line of the gully at 12th Street, north-south gully. We might need to find a more permanent fix because, yeah, I think that's the third time this year, but I think it's happened multiple times over the years. And
You said-
it's worse than it looks bad. It's dangerous.
Calhoun and North?
Calhoun and 12th, the northwest corner.
Oh, north, 12, okay.
Kevin's nodding like he's seen that too.
Yeah.
And it'll be fine, it'll get cold mixed in, but then the cold mix, you know, just gets eroded out and then the
Yeah.
bricks pop up. Those paver bricks are big.
They are. Takes a lot to pop them up.
Right.
Oh, what about Elm and, the one there on Elm Street and 10th and Elm, between 10th and Elm and 11th and Elm? You know, they're by Jim Cohorst. I told you about it. The dip there in the middle of the street, the brick street.
Didn't
Had
they
that
go-
little sinkhole.
I thought they went out and patched that. We put a ticket together. I think you called about that, right?
Yeah, some time ago, but
Yeah.
it wasn't here the other day unless you just did it recently. There was still the dip in there, in the
Oh,
bricks.
a dip, 12th and Elm.
No, 10th,
10th and
between
11th.
10th and 11th on
10th and
Elm.
11th.
Elm.
Front of the old library.
It used to be the old library.
That's before his time.
It's before my time.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood because I thought, they went and patched the area around there, but if there's a dip in the bricks, that takes a whole ripping it up and putting concrete out underneath of it, so they probably didn't do that. They probably patched around where the bricks were coming up.
Well, there's no patch there. It's a brick street in front of Jim Cohorst.
Can you get a ticket, written on
Got
that?
it written down,
Okay.
I'll make sure I get a ticket.
Right. Anything else on street? Anything else on water, wastewater? Okay, Parks and Rec? Actually, water, wastewater, I forgot to say. I did see the last couple weeks, the guys have been getting a lot of pits in, which is good to see. And not just that, they have been also doing, I've seen several approaches, sidewalk approaches and stuff that have been getting repaired. One of them by the furniture store and stuff. Yeah, there's quite a few projects the guys have been working on the last few weeks. I'm glad to tell them thanks.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
doing a good
yeah,
job.
They finally got in front of, by the eye doctors, finally done, thank goodness.
They got that one done too? Okay, I hadn't noticed that.
That's been
Good.
done for a while, thank goodness.
Yeah, I mean, they're knocking some of these projects out now that the
Yeah,
weather's.
well, it's winter time. Yes.
So, anything on Parks and Rec? Cemetery and Airport?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Terry.
You just said earlier here in the meeting about this generous donation up there at the airport. It'd be
Yes.
kinda nice. The city could maybe put up some kind of a pole or plaque or something to honor the fact that they've done something like that. They take 24 grand from somebody or 28, whatever it was, and
But it does help just the personal people that owns the hangars, but we can.
I understand, but it's
Yeah, we
kinda
could-
nice people go to the airport, they see something, at least in the airport office or something.
Put up a little plaque or something in the terminal
Yes.
building. Just a recognition plaque, but I mean, that trust has done a lot for the airport anyway,
Oh,
so.
they have, yeah.
If we don't already
Yeah,
have a
that's
plaque,
true.
we probably ought to have
Yeah.
one anyway.
That's true.
So when's
That's
that
all.
street supposed to be done going up to the,
They're gonna start pouring the parking lot, tomorrow.
good.
When's the kiosk gonna be done at the cemetery? Do you have any idea?
Uh,
Well, we still need to do something for Stingelmeyer's.
I thought that was going in on the new sign.
Oh, is it gonna,
That on the new
oh, okay,
sign.
that's
Yeah,
right,
remember
you
we
said it
said
was
that was
going,
going
yeah,
on that new
that's right,
sign.
you did
Yeah,
say
yeah,
it was going
yep,
on, because we
right.
need to get
And we have the
something.
Patterson thing taken care of, that one's done too, so, or will be.
Yeah, well, we definitely need to get something for Stingelmeyer's.
Right, and that's going on that sign, that
Okay,
same
all
sign.
right, I hope so.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Right, anything else on Cemetery and Airport? Police and Fire?
Where are we with the audit on the police department?
we haven't started. I mean, it's, we haven't started.
I don't know, did the Riley County Police Department already do it before you asked our approval?
The council approved Kalia for that specific one. And the Kalia process is actually a 3-year process, and we're in year 1. So that one is not complete.
So what they did was an actual audit.
It's part of their accreditation process.
It's part of the accreditation process.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else on police and fire? Admin and finance?
I don't know what it would be, but what it would be under, but the other night when we had the forum, they said there was a lot of noise on the tape.
Oh, really?
Because apparently the door was ajar. Why was the door ajar?
Not ours. We don't do it, we don't record it, we didn't do any part of it. The forum isn't the city.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but I don't know why the door should have been ajar.
You'd either have to ask Sarah or Bruce or.
What door, the outside door?
That door.
I guess
The camera was right next,
door there.
right next to the door.
I was sitting 4 feet from that camera, and I'm gonna say there wasn't a lot of ambient noise. It's probably on their equipment. If it's not calibrated or shielded in a certain way, it'll be easy to pick it up, but I sat right next to the camera, and it wasn't noisy. There was no obvious noise.
Okay, I don't know, they didn't, okay.
But I haven't seen it online, so.
It didn't have anything to do with our stuff.
I mean, the only thing that they used of ours was our mics and our speaker system, but I don't think they were even patched into our mic system.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, then
So whatever they were catching, they were just catching on their mics, on their equipment.
I mean, yeah, whatever noise there was, and granted, I live near the highway, so background noise is my life, but I think it probably was just ambient noise coming from outside, maybe through the doors, because you can hear when a heavy truck goes by when we're up here.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, but some people that listened to it said they heard lots of background noise, and so I said I didn't know, because we don't have Channel 2, so I don't have any ideas.
Okay. Anything else on admin and finance? No appointments. Do we need an executive session with the city attorney?
We do, and Jordan Ford is available too.
Okay.
But I would point out one thing, is in the packet last time.
Yes.
About unsafe properties, and I'm on a listserv, and one thing that popped up was what they do in Lawrence, the only city in Kansas using this statute to allow a city to gain title to a property. Mm-hmm. We have an apartment building that's been condemned, and some of the concern is it's gonna cost $30,000 plus
around there
to take it down, and there's a tax lien on it, approximately same amount, and it's hard play for anybody to put money into projects and realize you may go for a tax sale and you not recoup any of the money. So this provided some area of discussion, I think. A discussion, it allows for condemnation from a highest and best use. If it is unsafe, the highest best use of that apartment building would be demolition. The question is how they determine value. Market value would be valued as vacant land, and they would look for sales in the community. There was a property on the 11th Road that sold to Cream Oil. There's a sale there. And there's some sales out there they could use. The question is how would they, I'm not sure how an appraiser would take into consideration the demolition cost and the tax lien.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe it'd be worth discussion one, if it was appraised by somebody who understands highest and best use and these type of costs, maybe get some idea, well, if you did use this procedure, would we have to pay something to the landowner? Maybe it's $5,000, maybe it's $7,000, maybe it's $20,000, but it'll give you a better idea of what the value would be, and whether or not, well, this could be a way to facilitate the abatement of this nuisance type property. And so there's a lot of things in play. obviously, there's people who like to develop the area. They can be contacted. Some taxes in there that maybe could be abated. Maybe with this idea of actually gaining title of the property, maybe a way to reduce the city's loss. I think when every demolition of property, you're not gonna come up with a gain here.
No.
But you may be able to minimize the loss and make it feasible to move forward for, economic development purposes. But I thought it was interesting, the city of Lawrence is the only one, and I know the other, larger city, Junk City was interested in this. It's because those larger cities have these apartment buildings that may not be fit. But by chance, we have one, I think may fit within this parameter of the statute. So I wanted to bring it to your attention.
Okay.
It's worth considering.
Yeah,
And try to save some dollars.
it would be.
So is the 1205 Laramie coming down?
Carolina.
Carolina.
Yes, we just got communication from Cruzy Dozer, and he's, doesn't know how his current project is going. He gave us a heads up 1 to 2 weeks out. And we will have to execute a search warrant just to make sure that the property is cleared and nobody's living in there. But yeah, it's coming down.
Good. That issues have popped up on listserv too, but you don't get search warrants from a municipal judge, you get it from a district court judge,
Right.
magistrate.
Right, okay.
Okay.
The other, I do have important matters of litigation and personnel
Okay.
that should be discussed confidentially in a private.
Okay.
I do not have a prepared resolution.
Cindy's got it, I believe.
If the council
Who
would
wants to
indulge
call
me.
it?
I move the city council recess into executive session to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel, discussion on specific personal matters, not general personnel policies, exception KSA 75-4319B1. This session will include the mayor, city council members, city administrator, and city attorneys.
Attorneys, yep.
The open meeting will resume in the city council at
Which time do you think?
8:30.
15 minutes, and then I would say in your motion, it should include, it does overlap with potential litigation type issues, which should also be justified under the Open Meetings Act for
Discussion
confidential.
on personal matters, not general personal policies and litigation, exception KSA 75-4319B1.
B2 is,
B2.
And B2.
and
B2.
B2.
Okay. And so we'll resume at 9:15.
Yeah, I'd go for that. Yes, 19.
I'd like to,
There's a motion.
excuse myself at 8:56. So it's convenient for you guys to openly talk about stuff, so I don't leak information.
That's considerate of you. All right.
All right.
Okay. Did I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0.
7-0.
Going back.
Here, you wanna go back there?
Who, me? I'm leaving, usually. Is that what you
Should
said?
we go back there, or do we need
Let's
to
go
take the
back.
call here? or-
Let's go back there.
Oh.
Going back in the back?
Yeah.
They don't all have to leave, I guess.
Open the door for you?
back. Keith's not coming. Call this meeting back to order. No binding decisions were made. Well, basically, so we're on to roundtable. Bobby? Anything? Todd?
Black Squirrel Nights this week.
Yes, on Thursday night. And are you all serving?
speak when
Is
you all's
anybody
coming.
coming? Do we know who's coming to serve?
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
I work till
Be there.
7.
Dave, you coming?
I don't know.
I'll be there.
I'm
We
coming.
got, what, 3?
3 for sure.
We'll try to be.
We were still not listed in the newspaper.
After you talk to her? I need to read the paper better.
They'll find us.
It's,
I mean,
Is it down by, at Marysville Main Street?
it'll be in Marysville Main Street. We'll have our tent up. It says City of Marysville on it. That's where all the trunk or treat's gonna be. All the trunk or treat and us.
It was not listed in the things going on downtown again. And
Wonder what?
and Sarah told me she would have it in there, but it was not,
Okay, all
of
right.
the activities
So
downtown.
we'll have all the stuff there, and then when we're done, we'll be able to
So,
carry it
will we
inside.
have to be-
4:30 to 7, she told me, is when the street will be blocked on that end. Costume contest starts at 7.
Yeah.
Or usually we're done by then.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a granddaughter that's probably gonna wanna go to the costume contest, so that's.
Sure, that's fine, and I mean, and you don't have to be here the whole time, I
Okay.
mean, because some of the other guys will take over for it. Yeah,
Austin's not gonna be
some of them
here.
know how. Some of them done it a year or two.
I think I've been there a few times.
Yeah, okay, so,
I got a daughter dancing.
well, when she's done dancing, you can give out donuts, Barter, yeah. Yes.
Mine luckily is not dancing this year.
I don't know, I gotta do a lot of sweeping yet.
okay. Anything else, Todd? Diane?
No,
Terry?
No.
Parker?
No.
Colleen?
No.
I
Kevin?
have nothing tonight either, sir.
Wow, this is really.
I do not have anything either.
Good to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Good night,